Welcome to Rock Buzz. The 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in Los Angeles took place over the weekend, and it was a night that finally gave Soundgarden, Joe Cocker, and the White Stripes their due. Soundgarden's induction was introduced by Jim Carrey, who opened with humor, then turned reverent as he called the band the beautiful noise that carried us through the dark. When the surviving members hit the stage for Rusty Cage and Black Hole Sun, with Taylor Momsen and Brandi Carlile, also Pearl Jam's Mike McCready joining in, the emotional peak came with Chris Cornell's daughter, Toni Cornell, and her rendition of Fell on Black Days, alongside Nancy Wilson of Heart. It was a reminder to all how heavy and melodic and timeless that band still feels. The White Stripes were inducted by Iggy Pop, calling Jack and Meg the spark that set rock back on fire. Jack White was dressed in red, delivered one of the night's most memorable speeches, thanking Meg and reading off a handwritten list of bands that inspired them. Everyone from Fugazi, Loretta Lynn, to Jethro Tull and Captain Beefheart, some of them still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a subtle but pointed statement about who rock history remembers and who is still overlooked. Jack White's speech felt personal, even raw, directed as much to Meg as to the audience. He said she helped him keep it simple when the world wanted complicated, then paused to thank her for editing me. He admitted she cut entire lines from his lyrics that she thought were too clever or too wordy, and was always glad she did. It was one of the few times he'd spoken about their creative tension with warmth instead of mystery, calling her the calm center in all that noise. Jack even admitted that Meg had edited half his Hall of Fame speech. He said she went through it line by line a few nights earlier, scratching out parts she thought were too Jack, and reminding him to mention the people who got them there. It was a subtle but telling moment, the same instinct that once made her pull back a drum fill or slice a lyric. Even now, Meg is still shaping how the White Stripes are remembered, and rightfully so. When Jack referred to Meg as his sister, it reignited the old mystery that's followed them since the early days. Were they siblings, spouses, or something in between? In truth, Jack and Meg were married in the late 90s, then divorced before Elephant made them international stars. They leaned into the brother and sister story as part of the band's myth. Meg has not passed away, as some confused fans online suggested after the ceremony. She simply kept herself far from the spotlight, exactly the way she prefers it. The tribute performances with Olivia Rodrigo, Feist, and 21 Pilots drove that point home. Joe Cocker's segment hit hard in a different way, introduced by Bryan Adams. The tribute included Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks, with Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes tearing through Feeling All Right. Dave Mason, who originally wrote that song, even posted his gratitude online, saying, "It was an amazing performance." The finale, with a little help from my friends, closed the entire ceremony, a fitting goodbye for a voice that defined Woodstock and the soul of the 70s. Cyndi Lauper used her moment to turn True Colors into a message of courage and defiance. Bad Company were supposed to bring one of the night's biggest moments, but frontman Paul Rodgers pulled out at the last minute due to health concerns.
Thanks to current managers DS and Cynthia, Peter Grant and Led Zeppelin, especially Jimmy Page and Robert Plant for their total support from the start.
With founding guitarist Mick Ralph's passing last June, the band's remaining lineup held it together with class. Simon Kirke on drums, Howard Leese on guitar, and a rotating crew of friends stepping in. Joe Perry and Flea joined them for a stripped-down Can't Get Enough that turned into a heartfelt salute to both Rodgers and Ralphs. Before the set, Nancy Wilson read a handwritten note Rodgers had sent from backstage. Mick is smiling down. "I know you'll do us proud." Elton John appeared to introduce a surprise tribute to Brian Wilson performing God Only Knows with Brandi Carlile on harmony, followed by a blistering guitar section led by Jerry Cantrell and Mike McCready. Warren Zevon's induction was handled by David Letterman, who said this should have happened 20 years ago, but Warren would have loved the delay. A film montage rolled across the screen, followed by a tribute band featuring Beck, Rhea, and Nathaniel Rateliff trading verses on Lawyers, Guns, and Money. There was also a very cool star-studded tribute to Sly Stone, led by Stevie Wonder. Questlove and the Tedeschi Trucks Band anchored the closing jam, with a little help from my friends. Overall, the event had its moments, some more entertaining than others, but let's be honest, a lot of people still don't take the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame seriously. What really stood out was Jack White's list of bands that inspired the White Stripes. That moment said more than any induction could. It was a reminder that the Hall of Fame still has a lot of work to do, and start filling in the gaps. The artists that inspired the artist you're inducting. We do congratulate the great artists who have finally made it in, especially Soundgarden, Joe Cocker, Bad Company, and the White Stripes, but the Rock Hall still has a long way to go and a lot to catch up on before it's ever truly respected by the masses of real rock fans. Is the Rock Hall of Fame totally legit? Or is it just a TV show putting newer and younger musicians shoulder to shoulder with rock icons who actually started rock and roll from nothing, like some kind of passing of the rock and roll torch, as if any of that early rock music and attitude could ever legitimately be replicated? It's a completely different world now, and rock was always meant to be dangerous, not for streaming on Disney+. Share your thoughts in the comments section. That's going to do it for today. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We thank you for watching Rock Buzz.